Let's take a visual tour so you can get an idea of what some of these pieces look like and get a little bit better visual into this process. And then we'll go a little bit more into each of these parts and what's involved. So this is an indoor head mounting template and bracket. This is going to be really important. And if you've ever had to, say, hang a TV, a flat screen TV, it's a similar type process. We want to make sure that this bracket is properly secured to the wall, so it's mounted onto the studs, and this will give the strength to hang the ductless heat pump indoor head onto the bracket. And here we have someone actually mounting a ductless heat pump head. The indoor head mounts and secures directly to that bracket. What you're not seeing here is, some holes had to be drilled in the building beforehand, and the electrical and the refrigerant run through, but this is what it looks like mounting that indoor head. This is the line set, or that refrigerant tubing, and it's already got insulation with it. This is how it typically is shipped, and so we want to make sure that when we install this line set, or these refrigerant lines, that we really do have quality insulation covering it all the way from the compressor to the indoor head. This will ensure that we actually get the heat to transfer where we want it to go, and it will prevent condensation on these lines, which can always be a challenge. Running that line set is going to come with some things you really do need to be thinking about. What is the pathway you're going to use to get from that indoor head to the outdoor compressor? In other words, are you going to have to go through an attic or a crawl space, or can you go directly through the wall as we've seen here? You want to understand the distance to that compressor. Most of these pieces of equipment come with about a 25-foot line set maximum before you have to start weighing in refrigerant. And you can quote me on that to a degree, but please read your manufacturer's specifications. Each manufacturer will be a little different on the appropriate line set before you need to weigh it in. So that distance is important. If you can get within 25 feet, that's going to be really great. And of course, you need to think about the obstructions that might be in the way. Is there a dog house there? Are people storing things on the exterior of the building? Is there a lot of shrubbery and bushes? Those things can all make an installation much more challenging and can make any type of work later much more challenging as well. So these are all three things that you really want to be considering when thinking about running that line set. There are two different ways you can mount a device. You can either mount it on the ground or on the wall. And in scenarios where you have a lot of snow, snow drifts or high regular amounts of snow, mounting it on the wall can be a really nice option. This can also be for those instances where you need to mount it much higher, say for a second floor. So if you have a split home and you need to mount it higher, these wall mounts can work quite well. Similar concept to that indoor bracket, but much more rugged and sturdy because it has to hold this heavier compressor on the outside. If you're installing one on the ground, you're going to need to have one of these pads, and it can be a concrete pad, or they sell specific plastic pads just for this purpose. And we'll talk a little bit more about setting this, but you'll want a pad, you'll want some risers. You see a couple different versions of those in the lower right-hand corner, and those are enough to give you some clearance off the ground. So whether it's leaves or debris, running water, or even a little bit of snow, you've got that clearance underneath your compressor. Connecting the line set. This is where that torque wrench is going to come in handy, and you're going to connect it at both the compressor on the exterior and on the indoor head. One of the challenges here is getting that insulation just right. And we'll talk a little bit more, but the insulation around these line sets, try not to cut it off too much. It's better to scrunch it back when you make your connection so that it flexes and covers this entire line. Weighing in refrigerant. So I talked a little bit about this. You will need to have an EPA 608 refrigerant license in order to be able to handle refrigerant. And the EPA a couple of years ago passed new rules that have to do with handling and recording of refrigerant that's weighed in and waste refrigerant after any job. So you're going to need to have that certification. You're going to want to have your programmable scale and your gauge and hose set in order to do this. Again, as I stated, for a lot of devices, if you're able to put them within 25 feet of line set run, you may not have to weigh in any refrigerant. But what we find is most contractors, while that's their first goal, will inevitably find some scenarios where they really do need to run it longer. So it is a good idea to get that refrigerant handling license and to make sure you have the right equipment to do this work. There is going to be some connecting of electrical and for both power and communication, so that the wand inside actually controls and sends messages to the outdoor unit and the indoor unit. So you're going to need to be thinking about this, and this may require that you either subcontract an electrician or you have an electrician on staff to be able to handle this work. And of course, follow all proper codes and laws when handling any electrical equipment. The condensate line. As a part of the way these systems operate, condensation is created in the indoor head, and that condensation needs to go somewhere. So it's recommended that you bring that condensate line to the exterior of the building. One of the tricks you see on the right-hand side of the screen is this clever installer actually ran the line set condensate line, sorry, not the line set, the condensate line directly to a downspout. So this has a way for that condensate to actually move itself away from the building and not create any wet spots either on the siding or at the base of the building. Controls and homeowner training are also going to be critical. I mentioned the wand is the standard, but they do have these wall-mounted systems, and each of the major brands do have their own wall-mounted temperature controls that allow you to treat it much more like a standard thermostat, but a wand will work terrific, and it's not necessary that you move to this. It's just good that you know that it exists, so when you have this conversation with consumers, you have a good idea of how you want to do these controls. Many of these brands also are starting to develop apps that can be used much like a smart thermostat. You can log in, you can check the runtime of your unit, you can adjust the temperature remotely, and it actually will work as a kind of a backup wand or backup controller. So look to that if this is something you think your consumers might be interested in. Talk to the manufacturers and distributors and pick products that actually include these types of apps or smart controllers. And finally, really, the number one thing that we find in quality control problems is improper homeowner education and improper homeowner expectations. So you really do want to go through the process of training the homeowner both how to operate their system, what to expect from their system, and the basic maintenance that comes along with these systems. Some of the maintenance items associated are cleaning the filter on the indoor head and checking that condensate line at least annually to make sure there's no blockages. The Northwest Ductless Heat Pump Project does provide a lot of collateral, and we'll show you in the resources at the end, the website, and you can go and you can download these, and they can be really nice pieces for you to use when you have the conversation with the homeowner, but you can also use collateral that has been developed directly from the manufacturer you're working with.